Hello, this video is for topic 3, building functions, and we are looking at, I apologize, I made a little typo here. It's not 2a, it's actually 3a. We're looking at 3a, which is graph equations on coordinate axes with labels and scales. So this one's pretty easy to understand what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to graph equations. Simple as that. So if I give you an equation, and remember an equation is anything with an equal sign, can you have a graph and make a line from that equation? That's what we're being asked to do. So something you need to know is that I can only graph if I have an equation that's in explicit form. An explicit form is an equation where the y is all by itself. So for instance, y equals 3x plus 1. That is an equation in explicit form. And if you remember, the reason why we all love explicit form so much is because these two numbers have very special meanings. The number next to the x is always the slope. So if it's by the x, it's the slope. The number that's all by itself is always the y-intercept. And that's why explicit forms are so cool, because it gives us two really, really important pieces of information. So let's see how awesome this really is. Y equals 1/4 x minus 3. I know that this equation is okay to graph because my y is all by itself. And I also know that when the y is all by itself, it's in explicit form, which means that my number by the x is my slope, and the number that's all by itself is my y-intercept. So now I just have to take this information and put it on my graph. Well, I always start with the y-intercept. So I know that a y-intercept is a point on my y-axis. So I'm going to go to -3 on my y-axis, and I'm going to put a dot. Now I'm going to use my slope. Remember, slope is always rise over run. So the top number is telling me to go up 1 spot, and the bottom number is telling me to go to the right 4 spots. So from my y-intercept, from the point I already have, I'm going to go up 1 and over 4, and I'm going to make a new dot. And then if I go up 1 and over 4 again, I kind of go off the edge of it. Sorry. My thing got messed up. But if I go up 1 and over 4 again, I kind of go off the edge of the graph, but I'm going to put a dot there anyway. And now I can just go ahead and connect those. And I used my equation to make a graph. Simple as that. Let's try another one. Y equals -2x plus 1. Remember, I have to make sure that it's in explicit form because I can only graph if it's in explicit form. So is my y by itself? Yes, it is. Now remember, when my y is by itself, these two numbers have special meaning. The number with the x is always my slope. The number by itself is always the y-intercept. I start with this y-intercept number, so I'm going to 1 on my y-axis, and I'm putting a dot. Remember, it's our y-intercept, so we always want to put it on our y-axis. Now I'm going to do my slope. And again, my slope is rise over run. So if my slope is -2, that's going to tell me I'm going to go down 2. But I don't know how far sideways to go. There's no number on the bottom down here. Well, remember, if there's no number on the bottom, you automatically put a 1. So I'm going to go down 2 into the right 1 from my y-intercept, from my blue point. So down 2 into the right 1. 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 And now I can go ahead and connect these points. And I've used my equation to make a line. One more example, and this example is the most important one. Because here's my equation, -2x plus 3y equals 9. Is this equation in explicit form? Because I can only graph it if it's in explicit form. Well, here's my y. Ooh, my y is not by itself. So right now I can't graph this equation. What I need to do is I need to manipulate my equation. I need to rearrange this equation until the y is by itself, until it is in explicit form. So here's my y. I'm starting furthest away from my y, and I'm doing the opposite. A -2x, the opposite is a +2x. what would happen is it would cross out over here and the 3y would come down. On the other side, it's just going to be 9 plus 2x. Now the y is still not quite by itself because I got to get rid of that 3, so I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides, so that crosses out. And my y is by itself now. Now on this other side, this side is a little tricky, but it's super important. I am going to look first at these first two numbers. I got this 9 and 3 here, and I need to divide those two numbers. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. Then I need to look at my next two numbers, the 2 and the 3 over here. And I need to divide those two numbers. Well, 2 divided by 3 makes 0.66666. And that's not helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a fraction. Because the 2 was on the top, I put the 2 on the top. The 3 was on the bottom, so I'm putting the 3 on the bottom, and then the x goes behind it. So now I have this new equation. The original equation, I did some steps to it, and now I have this brand new equation down here that's in explicit form. The y is all by itself. So remember, when the y is all by itself, the number that's with my x is my slope. The number that's all by itself is the y-intercept. And I start by graphing my y-intercept. So I'm going to go up to 3 on my y-axis, and I'm going to put a point. Now I have the slope of 2/3 here, so that's telling me to rise 2 and run 3. So I'm going up 2 and over 3. Up 2 and over 3. And now I'm going to connect these points, and I made myself a line.